Let's start this video with the thought that is on every Manchester United fan's mind right now. And that thought is f*** you Haaland and f*** you Foden. What is going on, Manchester United fans? And I'm sure there's going to be a couple rivals watching. What an awful, awful, awful watch. It's never good to watch a team get smacked up. It's never good, never good. Especially when two of the opposing players get hat-tricks as well. To be honest, it's inevitable and it's kind of written rule at this point that Haaland is going to score a hat-trick. But see Phil Foden scoring one as well really, really does put the nail in the coffin. But our team didn't give up, and that's one thing that I really, really want to preference. There was a system and you could kind of see it being played, and to be honest, if I'm going to be totally honest, I did expect either a defeat or at maximum a draw. If we could have snatched a win today, I would have been so ecstatic. I've pretty much got straight into the video, guys. If you are new to the channel, please subscribe. I need it right now. I'm suffering indeed. I'm sure we all are. But I'm going to start by saying something that with Ten Hag these last couple of weeks, let's take away, obviously, jump before the international break. We were seeing a system switching into place. Now, Man City, and like I said, I expected a defeat, I expected a draw from this game, at most, a draw. These guys are one of the best teams in the world. You know, they're the league winners from last season, and then they've added Haaland to the mix. It's ridiculous. It shouldn't be legal. It really shouldn't at this point. I was expecting a rough game, and nothing can really prepare you for a 6-3 drubbing. Let's be honest, there was some fight back at the end of the game, but it was a 6-3 drubbing. At the end of the day, if you concede in 6 goals in a game, it's a tough watch, especially against your City rivals. Now, I want to be honest and I want to say, these guys, Man City that is, I hate even saying it, these guys are one of the best teams in the world. Not just the league, the world. These guys are the creme de la creme. They've got a manager that has imposed this system over, what is it, like the last 6 years has he been at City? 7 maybe? I don't really pay much interest in them. But yeah, he's in place his system, and this is a team full cogs turning, full regeneration. I mean, like I said, they've just got one of, if not the best number 9 in the world signed for them. They've got De Bruyne, who is, if not the best player in his position, if not, a lot of people argue this season, the best player in the world. Let's just, like, so many of us before this season were like, oh, especially FPL related, let's just say, oh, I heard so many people saying De Bruyne is going to not be the player that he was last season. He's not a guarantee. He's pretty much done. He's out in the water. Haaland is going to be the guy. It's testament to what a quality player De Bruyne is, and I will give him the due that he is a fantastic player, and he's just showing what wonders he can do, even when he's not the front guy, playing a false 9 for him. That's as much as I really want to talk on City. I'll give him that. Us, it's a bit different. Ten Hag is imposing his system. Just before the international break, he was switching. We were seeing things change in the game. Now, personally, I was won over and I think a little bit too emotional. I was fully behind it, and I thought we were going to go. Now, obviously playing City, as I said, they're one of the best teams in the world. They've got a manager that's been there. He's imposed his system. They are the creme de la creme, as I said. We are new manager at the beginning of the season. We've spent a lot of money, a lot of money. You can question his lineup, but at the end of the day, for me personally, if he's not starting Casemiro, if he's not starting Ronaldo, why is he not starting these guys? Is he doing it to protect them? Has he got his system and he's picking the players that play the best in training? Maybe these players don't train well. I do not know. But at the end of the day, I know a lot of people were questioning that lineup when it came out. But at the end of the day, this guy sees him day in, day out. He's a top-level coach, and it's City. It's going to be a hard match either way. He was probably looking for the legs to run against them, track back, track forward. At the end of the day, Ronaldo is 37 years old. And he's not the best at running. He's not the best at tracking. And he doesn't, like I said, he doesn't sprint after the ball when you're out of possession as much as you probably need your forward to do. At the end of the day, reverting back to that, Rashford's performance up top, it's a tough game. This is it. It's so hard when the starting centre-backs for City, as we can see, I've got them up on the screen, were Akanji and Laporte. Now, I think Laporte has been starting at that left centre-back position for City quite a bit this season, but Akanji is not even the starting right centre-back. That is Diaz. So they've not even got the starting lineup at the back. Now, Oh, I don't know. It's just a tough game. It is a tough watch. We've just watched our team get smashed 6-3. At the end of the day, the game at the back end, we were fighting back, and I really do commend the team. Martial coming off the bench, what a fantastic performance for him coming off the bench. 2 goals, one from a penalty and one from open play, that header and heading it back in. Great to see, that fight, that tenacity is there. That's something that, to be honest, Martial has been called out for lacking. A guy coming off the bench and showing that he's got that, that's good to know that we've got that in the squad. I want to kind of work through the United team. I'm going to kind of leave City off this because obviously I'm a United channel, and I kind of want to talk about the players overall in the starting lineup. So we started with De Gea. De Gea did not have a good performance by any means. For me, this does show that in years to come, if not by next season, he probably most likely will not be our starting goalkeeper. Ten Hag needs a different type of goalkeeper, and sadly, De Gea isn't one of them. I do think he gets slated far too much by our fan base. At the end of the day, he's been a great servant to the club. He's won Player of the Season a good couple of years. Now, you could fight that argument and say that's because we've had such shocking players and such shocking teams over the last couple of years. But at the end of the day, he has been a great servant. He's I think it's over, is it 12 years he's been at the club now? Like I said, it's somewhere around that mark anyway. He's been our starting goalkeeper for around about that time. Maybe 11, 10 years, I think it is. Now, obviously, the last 10 years haven't been great, but he's one player in a team, and obviously there's been so much turmoil after Fergie has left. But for me, De Gea, I think after next season, it's time to look in the summer maybe for a new starting goalkeeper. And De Gea isn't that starting goalkeeper for me. Wherever he goes on to play, I'm sure that he will do fantastic. But it's just such a rough performance, like I said. But it is against City. I'm not taking too much into it. Malacia starting at left back. I think this was an awful performance for Malacia. As we saw with the substitution, Luke Shaw actually came on and looked much better in this game. This is something I was a bit concerned about at the beginning of the season, that Malacia is a great player, but he's not fully adapted to the Premier League. And I think it does take a season or two for a player like that to fully adapt. We actually saw it with a player, I'm not saying that he's anything like him, but João Cancelo from Man City. I think it was like the first season and a half, he wasn't fully adapted to the league, but he's absolutely flourishing now, and I do think Malacia does fall under that category. I think to throw him in so young as well, like you said, you do risk them. We saw him pick up a yellow as well. I think he picked up a yellow. But overall, just really struggled down that left-hand side for us, defending and stuff. Like I said, it's just a tough game. He's young. I don't want to pull him out and stuff too much. But like I said, this is where the argument for Shaw does fall into place. Once again, I don't think Shaw is the left-back, that we need and is the finished product. But we are a team that's building. City are a finished team. We're building, we're changing. This season in a year's time, this season in 2 seasons' time, will be a complete different look, and hopefully winning titles, which is so tough to say after that game though. But one thing I did see was fight. So it was great to see that Luke Shaw was fighting, and to be honest, there was a good few players in this game that did come on and did try and fight as well. Martinez, again, another player that for me didn't have the best game. To be honest, I was really worried about Haaland pairing up with him on the pitch, basically standing on him and just absolutely outpowering him. It didn't really happen exactly like that, but I think obviously, I was really worried about pundits after the match calling him out for his height, saying how he, wasn't made for the Premier League. We've heard all this before, and he has shown the doubters that isn't the case. I think he's adapted really well to the Premier League, but this game was just a tough matchup. So once again, not the best game from him, but you can let him off because there's growth, there's development, and he's had a fantastic last couple of weeks before the international break. Starting next to him was, in fact, Varane, who went off with an injury. That's really worrying scenes. For the future games coming up, that puts me in a bit of a kind of up and down situation. Who do we start at that right centre-back position now? Are we going to be starting the guy who came on for him, Lindelof, who I don't think did all bad, considered that it was a Manchester derby. Manchester United when we're winning. But yeah, I think it was good to see. I think Lindelof didn't have an awful performance. Really sad to see that he's gone off with an injury. Hopefully it isn't too big of an injury and he can be back soon in that starting squad. There is always the potential that Maguire comes in that position as well. Now, that's a player that is maybe going to step up when we need him now. if that injury is long-term for Varane, hopefully they pulled him off early so it wasn't exacerbated, and the injury can kind of, like you said, shorter recovery time is basically what I'm saying. Moving on from him, like I said as well, shout out to Lindelof. I think he did well for all things considered. It's never an easy game, but it just, like I said, going forward, how do we start? We've got a Europa game coming up after this in about 4 days, midweek. Midweek. So, you know, I'll be interested to see who our starting centre-backs for that game are. Moving over from there, we have Dalot. Dalot is another player that even in the international break got 2 goals for Portugal in one of the games, and for a right back I think he's been fantastic. He's been in great form for us. One of my standout players from the season so far. Him and Eriksen have been absolutely wondrous so far for me. But yeah, not the best game. Picked up a yellow as well. Really struggled down the right wing, as well as, like I said, Malacia struggled on that left back. Really tough game for our fullbacks. It was half expected, but so far, like I said, not the best performance, but we are growing. And he's shown great stuff so far through the season. I'm being very positive as much as I can do. Starting in the midfield, Eriksen picked up an assist in this game as well. I don't think he actually had an awful game, to be honest, overall. He never really does. He's kind of a 6, 7, 8 player over consistently. That's out of 10, sorry, that's his rating. He never really dropped below, or, you know, he can go above that, but his average game sits between like 6, 7 and 8 out of 10. So, you know, he's a consistent, solid player, playing a bit of a different position to what he did for Brentford last season, and kind of how he has playing all over his career. He's a bit more deeper, but he has really adapted well to that, and he has been a welcome addition in that midfield. But it's just a bit interesting, like I said. You know, it's never an easy game, but I wouldn't call him out for saying he had a bad performance. Moving across from him, a man that's also been in form this season has been Scott McTominay. For me, he was down and out, and he was just a no-no after last season. But, you know, he's proved the doubters wrong. And to be honest, in the long term, I think he would be a great squad rotation player. I think if he does come on, like I said, in that midfield, if we're trying to hold a game, I'm comfortable with him being the player that comes on. Currently, we actually are doing it the opposite way, so we're starting with McTominay and bringing on Casemiro. Bit of an interesting one on Casemiro. I don't think he had a good game at all. He made a few tackles, but like I said, I don't know why. If maybe this is why Ten Hag isn't starting him. But he did not look at the races. He really doesn't. I don't know whether he's still trying to bed in. Give him benefit of the doubt. You know, it's a big change up. Madrid to Manchester, that would crush anybody's soul. But yeah, coming over, like I said, there's a bit of an adapting period. And hopefully, like you said, he's just kind of bedding in, getting the family in. There's a lot that needs to be done sometimes. So I know that he's still trying to learn the language a little bit as well. So that's also a factor. In game, you don't really need to know English or, like you said, the language of your teammates. You know, picking up a few phrases here and there, you can kind of manage as long as your overall game is decent. So I'm not saying that on the field it's too much of a problem, but I think in training, getting used to Ten Hag's system and stuff, I think it will be a couple of weeks before we actually see him in that starting position. I might be wrong, but like I said, he didn't have the best game for me. It's a tough game. He didn't look at the races. He always seemed to be like a couple of yards behind the game. I saw, you know, Grealish put him on his backside in the box and stuff. But at the end of the day, he's showing tenacity, he showed drive, and that's a good start for a player that, like I said, he's trying to make into that first team. But yeah, very comfortable by the back end of the season. We will see, I think, Eriksen and Casemiro starting in those holding positions. Big change up from what we saw last season with Fred and McTominay. It's what all the fans were calling out for change, and we're seeing it. But yeah, credit to Scott McTominay. He did get took off, but not an awful performance, I think, overall from him as well. Moving up from there, we actually start on that left wing. Now, that left wing I'm going to start with was... It was a really tough performance from a player, once again, who's been in decent form these last couple of weeks, Sancho. I was expecting a little bit more from him, I must be honest, seeing as though he didn't get picked for England. The same for Rashford as well. You know, I'll try and cover Rashford and Sancho in this, but really tough game. I think going forward we will see better performances from our attacking players. It really does kill me seeing a player like Cody Gakpo absolutely killing it. You know, there's talks about him potentially being signed in January, maybe even into the summer, but definitely, obviously, our scouts have the eyes on him. But yeah, like you said, It would be a welcome addition again. I think, like, just as seeing Scott McTominay, seeing Luke Shaw and stuff, these players from last season who looked off boil, didn't look at full form. Players have been brought in the position, and they've absolutely changed the gear and kicked in. And like you said, everybody's fighting for the positions to get into that first team, and that's something that I really want to see more of. But yeah, I think Sancho really was off the boil, and I was expecting a bit more from him and Rashford, seeing as though they weren't picked for England. They've had a longer rest than a lot of players. But yeah, didn't really see it in that game, and obviously just very well marked, very well took out of the game from City's perspective. Moving into midfield, it was Bruno Fernandes. The guy is so vocal. You can't knock that. One thing from him is passion. I know he gets on the opposing fans' nerves so much. He's one of those players, if he's playing for you, you absolutely love it. But if he's playing against you, you can't stand him. For me, once again, a great player. Not the best performance overall. He really does struggle when he's, like you said, when creatively he's stumped or, he's been marked out of a game. But once again, not going to knock it too much. There just wasn't enough progression up forward for him a lot of the game. But hopefully in the coming weeks, once again, bit more freedom, tough team to play against. I sound like I'm saying the same things again and again, but a really tough watch, I'll be honest. Moving over to that right wing was a player that I really do want to speak about, and that is Anthony. He scored an absolutely stunning goal against City. That really, I think, really pulled a lot of the players out the trenches. Scoring something like that shows that anything can happen. And we can't forget that the finishing scoreline for this game ended 6-3, and that's a drubbing. We're not at our full quality by the end of this game. By no means. Ten Hag's not even done a full season with us. And we're still getting 6-3. It shows that there is something to this system. And we were very open. That's another thing. We were very open because we were trying a lot of the game. And I would much rather see us get defeated 6-3 in a game where we're showing passion, we're trying to push forward, we're trying different things, in comparison to a game where let's just say we lose 2-0, 3-0, and we've seen nothing all game. Do you know what I mean? So we were open in certain areas, trying different things, pushing forward. I mean, Martinez was pushing forward at certain points as well, and obviously that leaves you open. Haaland's just an absolute insane monster, so obviously he's going to capitalise on a few things like that. But yeah, really awful, really awful. As I mentioned, Rashford started as our captain. Not too sure on that pick. To be honest, I think, Bruno for me would be one of those players that you would have maybe made your captain. I don't know. Obviously, Ronaldo was left on the bench. That's a big talking point before the game and after the game. And then obviously, Martial came on in Rashford's position. Not too much to say on Rashford, but Martial came on, and a fantastic performance from him. Potentially pushing for our midweek Europa game, maybe for him to start, show what he can do from that starting position, and then maybe try and get in for, I think it's Everton after that as well. So yeah, that'll be an interesting game to see who starts for us then. But yeah, that's the kind of run through from the first team. Some good performances in, looking for a silver lining in a very tough game indeed. But you know what? I'm not too negative. 6-3 the game ended, and we are nowhere near our finished product. For the best team in the world, you conceded 3 against a team that you're calling a joke. The fans, to be fair to City, they never really filled that stadium, but, there was an atmosphere in there today. So, congratulations. Even though you are all a bunch of plastics, you can still make a bit of noise. But yeah, very mocking on their side of stuff overall. But, this is the kind of game that I hope drives players. I feel like this is a game in, months to come, next season. This is the game that, we show back to the players and we say, look, kick it into gear. These guys mean business. This is a rivalry building, like you said. We're on the incline. We're not a team that looked lost today, to be honest. And it sounds really weird when you've lost 6-3, but I do believe in this team. I believe in Ten Hag. I believe in the future of this team. And I'm trying to be positive. I really am. It was a tough watch, but let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section below after today. I don't even want to speak about City. I've run through United. Let me know what you think to this kind of style of video, and I might do more in future. But thank you very much for watching, guys. I've been Joe, and I shall see you in the next one. Adios.